Hello everybody. In this lesson we are going to discuss a very important skill, learning how to do in-text citations and how to correctly format a works cited page is very, very important when you're writing research papers. For English, we're going to use an MLA format, Modern Language Association. Now if you're in another class, education, health, you might use APA. Some classes might require to use Chicago. There are different styles, so it's important also to know what style you're being asked to use. Again, for this course, we're going to use MLA. The first and most basic rule for using in-text citations, and again, an in-text citation is the citation or the information that goes at the end of a sentence inside your paragraph. So if you pull out a direct quote from a source, or even if you take the information and you paraphrase it into your own words, at the end of that sentence, you need to let your reader know where that information came from. And that will go in parentheses. But it's important to know what goes inside of those parentheses. So those are called in-text citations. And the first and most important rule is that if you have the author's last name and a page number, that is always, always your first option. So the author's last name and the page number are always your first option if they're available. If we look at this example, Shakespeare is the best. That's a quote pulled from somebody, and the author's last name was Smith, and that was on page 48 of that article or that book. Notice that the period is after the citation, so it's not after the word best. It's all the way at the end after the parentheses. Also notice that there is no comma or PG period between the name and the number. So it's not Smith, comma 48. It's just Smith space 48. Okay, our second rule is about articles that have no author. This is very common, especially on a website. So if there is no author, use the title of the article. For websites, you will find the title at the top of the page, usually in slightly bigger print. If you kind of think of a newspaper, a print newspaper, how they have headings or headers at the top, the title of that article. So that's kind of what you're looking for, whatever is in bigger, bolder print at the top. Still use the page number if you have it. So example here, Shakespeare is the best. There was no author, but the title of the article was Shakespeare's Life. Notice that there are quotation marks around Shakespeare's life. There's quotation marks around the title. That is the same punctuation mark as the quotations around the quote, but they mean different things. Shakespeare is the best is a quote. Those quotation marks are telling us that it's word for word. Shakespeare's Life is the title, and those quotation marks are telling us that that's the title of an article. You will never ever use the URL of a website, so the www. whatever, that will never go in your in-text citation. That's a pretty common error that I see, so just make sure that you understand to use the title and not the website. Our next rule is pretty simple. If you don't have a page number, just leave it blank. So if you look at the example, it just has the title of the article. That's also true if it would be an author, but there was no page numbers. You never want to make up a page number, so you don't want to just scroll down on a website and kind of guess I'm around page 2. Only if you see the actual physical number, then you go ahead and include it as the page number. Okay, our fourth rule is if you use the author's name in the sentence that you write, you don't need to use it again in the citation. So if you look at our example, Shane Smith claims that Shakespeare is the best. I don't need Smith again there in the parentheses. I just have the page number. Now, if there is no page number, you look at that next example, Shane Smith claims that Shakespeare is the best. I don't have any parentheses at all because I've already given his name and I don't have a page number to put in there. Now there are other rules. There are other situations that you will come across, but there's too many to go over and to list. For example, what if you have two authors with the last name Smith that you use in your paper? You have Jane Smith and Shane Smith. If I just put Smith, you're not going to know which article it's from or which author I'm talking about. So there's a different rule for that. if Shane Smith wrote 2 different articles and you use them both in your essay, and I just put Smith, you're not going to know which article it's from. So there are other situations. If you cite a documentary, it's going to look different. If you use an interview, it's going to look different. And the best place to go is to go to the MLA website or go to the Al Purdue Online Writing Lab website. There are many resources out there online that you can use to find how to do all these different situations. And finally, we have a works cited page. This is the page added at the end of your essay that lists the sources you cite in your essay. If it's on the works cited page, then there has to be an in-text citation somewhere in your paragraphs. If there is a citation in your paragraphs, it needs to be found on the works cited page. Those 2 things need to match exactly. The entries for each source follow a specific format. The other videos and resources in this lesson will show you that formatting. The page itself has a specific format. So make sure that once you get all of the sources onto the works cited page that you go and follow those formatting rules.